Today's story is going to be astonishing and unusual because it is about a thief who, at just 14 years old, outsmarted police and the farby across the United States. The most shocking part is that at only 14 he stole houses, cars, boats, and even planes. He had neither a pilot's license nor any flying experience, yet he stole several planes and even flew them. By the time he was 16, around 42 cases had been registered against him. On one occasion, he even stole a police officer's gun and ran away. This boy became such a big problem for the FBI that they searched many cities and islands to catch him, but they could not find him. When people learned about him and his thefts, nobody could believe it. When you hear this story for a moment, you too will find it hard to believe. It will leave you astonished. So who was this 14-year-old boy? How did he carry out these incredible thefts? Did the police ever catch him? This amazing and unbelievable story is about a boy named Colton Harris-Moore. He was born on the Camano Island in Washington. Colton's childhood was always very difficult. His mother was heavily addicted to alcohol and was often intoxicated, and his father was addicted to drugs. Because of their addictions, they fought a lot, and eventually they divorced. After the divorce, Colton's father left him and his mother, leaving neither money nor a way for them to survive. Colton's situation grew worse. They were already living in deep poverty, and because of his mother's addiction, she paid no attention to him. Colton often had to sleep hungry because there was no food. Distressed by these conditions, he decided to start stealing. Colton began going to local stores and supermarkets to steal food and supplies. Due to his young age and lack of experience, he was caught and was sent to a juvenile detention center. Juvenile centers hold children who commit crimes at a young age. When police tried to meet Colton's mother about this, she refused, saying she had nothing to do with Colton. This rejection affected Colton deeply, and at that moment he decided to leave the house. After leaving home, Colton began targeting houses that were either empty or whose owners were away on vacation. He would break through walls to enter. The first thing he did on entering was open the refrigerator and take food to eat. After eating, he would watch TV and rest on the sofa. In those empty houses, he felt the peace and comfort he had always longed for, and that is why he often spent many nights in the same house. Before leaving each house, Colton took valuable items such as cash, gold, and electronics. He also took food from the fridge to satisfy his hunger. Colton had a rule: he only stole items for which the homeowners could claim insurance, so they would not suffer loss. With the money he stole, Colton bought a tent. He either spent nights in empty houses or set up his tent in the forest and slept there. Because he always carried the tent over his shoulder, he felt constantly burdened, so he chose a suitable place in the woods to pitch his tent and spent his days in empty houses and nights in the tent. Months passed while Colton lived in that tent. During this time, he occasionally changed his location in the dense forest, so he would not be noticed. The police received repeated complaints about the thefts Colton was committing, and began searching for an unknown thief. After some investigation, the police found fingerprints Colton had left during his burglaries. Because Colton had earlier been caught stealing from a supermarket and had juvenile records, the police matched those prints to his criminal database. The fingerprints matched Colton, and now the police had his print and his photo. Although the police had Colton's photo, catching him remained a challenge. They circulated his photo in newspapers and on TV. Wanted posters and newspaper pictures made people aware of Colton, but he kept changing his disguise and buying necessities with stolen money. Colton turned 15, and in 2007 he was caught stealing a parcel left at a house by delivery service. A neighbor informed the police, and they arrested Colton. He was sent back to the juvenile detention center. There, Colton showed a new side of himself. He began working on self-improvement, read many books, and made sketch drawing. While reading, his interest in airplanes increased, and he drew many airplane sketches. Colton took part actively in classes at the detention center, and everyone thought he had changed and would lead a good life after release. He told supervisors he would go to university and complete his studies, but behind all this was a cunning plan that later succeeded. After spending 10 months in the detention center, Because of good behavior, he was sent to a child care home. The child care home did not have barred walls like the detention center. Only 2 guards watched over it. Colton began observing the movements of those 2 guards, and one night he gathered his belongings, jumped out of a window, and escaped from the child care home. This made him free again. After doing small jobs for a year, Colton felt he lived better by stealing and decided to resume. It was now 2009 and Colton was 17. He pitched his tent again in a dense forest and began looting houses and stores. Colton was very strong in his arms and legs, so he could easily break down walls and climb pipes. That is how he entered a house through a second-floor window with ease. Since he had escaped the child care center, police were constantly searching for Colton. One day police spotted him and chased him. While fleeing, Colton hid in a car parking area and soon disappeared into the forest. The police were determined to catch him and launched a full search operation, searching every inch of that forest. By evening they found a car that had crashed badly. It was the car Colton had used to escape. After examining the car, the police realized Colton had escaped into the dense forest again, and once more he slipped from their hand. Because he kept escaping from police custody, Colton's confidence grew so much that he crossed all limits and stole a rifle from a police car. This mistake later cost him dearly. The theft of the rifle caused alarm across the police department. Authorities feared Colton might take someone's life during a theft. For this reason, police conducted a search operation across the entire Camano Island, using helicopters and trained dogs. Still, they found nothing. During this time, the FBI also joined the search. When the FBI took charge of the search operation, they put a $100 reward on Colton's head to encourage his quick capture. But Colton was planning something no one had ever thought of or heard before. As I mentioned earlier, during his time in detention, his interest in airplanes had increased. After his escape, he bought an aviation manual, a book containing all information about airplanes. Along with reading the aviation manual, Colton also started playing flight simulation games. After reading Microsoft's manuals and playing simulation games, Colton started keeping an eye on a small nearby airport and its runway. This airport was mostly used by people who had their own private plane. During his observation, whenever Colton got a chance, he secretly sneaked into those planes and stole their user manuals. After studying these user manuals for a few weeks, Colton began to feel that now he had gained enough knowledge about planes, so he decided that he would steal a plane from that airport. One night Colton jumped over the bushes near the runway and reached the airport hangar. This was the same hangar where the planes were parked. After breaking the lock on the hangar door, Colton went inside and pulled one aircraft out to the runway. Because of the aviation and user manuals he had been studying for the past few days, it became easier for him to handle the aircraft. Within no time he took off with the aircraft. After takeoff, Colton flew the plane to around 18,000 feet, so that it would not be detected by any radar device. Even the air traffic controllers had no idea that a 17-year-old boy was flying a stolen aircraft. Since it was Colton's dream to fly an aircraft, he became so excited while flying that he didn't realize the plane was running out of fuel. Very soon an alarm started ringing inside the aircraft due to low fuel. Hearing the alarm, Colton panicked. Now the most important thing in front of him was to land the aircraft safely. Although Colton had taken off the aircraft easily, while landing he faced many difficulties. He couldn't figure out where to land the plane. Then he saw an empty area near a fort. As soon as he tried to land the aircraft there, it wobbled and hit the ground, then slipped and crashed into a tree. The most shocking part was that Colton survived even this crash. With only a few scratches and minor injuries, he escaped from the aircraft and ran into the fort. As soon as the police got news about the stolen aircraft, they began investigating. They never imagined that Colton could be behind this theft. The police assumed that drug smugglers were involved and had stolen the plane to transport drugs, but they had no clue that the theft was done by Colton, who was an escaped juvenile detainee. Meanwhile, the police involved in Colton's case continued searching for him and eventually reached the forest where he had set up his tent. When Colton heard people approaching, he quickly slipped out of his tent and hid in the bushes. When police searched the tent, they found aviation manuals and the user manual of the stolen plane. Since Colton's photo was also in the tent, the police immediately realized that he was behind the aircraft theft. The police were shocked and couldn't believe that a 17-year-old boy, who had never even sat in a plane before, could steal and fly one. After this aircraft theft, Colton again stole another aircraft and successfully landed it on a nearby island. This island was about 60 kilometers away from Camano Island. After reaching the island, Colton first went to a supermarket. At the supermarket, his eyes fell on an ATM machine. He got into a forklift truck parked nearby and rammed it into the ATM. The impact was so powerful that the ATM broke into two parts. He took the money and escaped. On this island, Colton committed several other thefts as well. He carried them out fearlessly, unaware that every time his fingerprints and images were being captured on surveillance cameras. Now Colton's photos started running on the news. Since he committed all his thefts barefoot, he was nicknamed Barefoot Bandit. He became so popular as the Barefoot Bandit that people started creating fan pages for him and even dedicated graffiti art to him on walls. Colton also enjoyed this growing fame. That's why after one supermarket theft, he drew footprints there, leaving his mark as a kind of signature to please his fans. Soon Colton realized that the police and FBI were searching for him on the island, so he decided to escape. Since police were closely monitoring every airport, Colton chose another route. This time he stole a boat and sailed to Canada. The most surprising part was that while escaping by boat, no Coast Guard noticed him, and he reached Canada very easily. In Canada he spent a few weeks and made friends with two people. They became very close to him, but they had no idea that Colton was a wanted thief. A few days later, a fight broke out between them, and they separated. Later, when those two friends read about Colton in the newspaper, they were shocked. Colton then stole a boat for the third time and returned to America. After reaching America, he started committing car thefts, but this time, he was more careful. He never used a car for long, nor did he refill its gas. As soon as a car ran out of fuel, he abandoned it and stole another. He continued these car thefts until he reached the local airport in Ada City. At this airport, Colton stole an aircraft for the fourth time and flew it to Granite Falls, Washington. While landing in the city, he saw an empty plot of land and decided to land there, but the land had cut down tree stumps sticking out. Before he could turn the plane, it was too late. The aircraft hit the stumps during landing and was badly damaged. Yet again, Colton's luck saved him. With only minor injuries, he escaped into the forest. This time, local people witnessed the plane crash. One man ran to the site and informed the police. As soon as the police received the news, they, along with the FBI, rushed there. They used helicopters to search the forest and also sealed off the entire area and all nearby checkpoints to stop Colton from escaping. Meanwhile, the police station received a call from a local family living near the forest. They reported that a boy was hiding in the trees near their house, and they suspected it was the same boy shown on the news. Police rushed there to catch him, but before they could, Colton had escaped. In his hurry, he left behind all his belongings, which the police immediately seized. Among these items, they found a bag containing about $7,000 cash and a camera full of Colton's selfies. Even with such a massive police and FBI search operation, they still failed to capture Colton. Meanwhile, Colton stole a fifth aircraft and flew to another island in Washington. This time, he successfully landed the plane without any damage. After committing some thefts on this island, Colton decided to stop stealing for a few months and disappear from the public eye. Because of his sudden break from crimes, both the police and Colton's fans thought he might have died, as he had never gone this long without committing thefts. But a few days later, he shocked everyone again when footprints were found near a harbor, and along with them, a boat was missing. This clearly meant Colton was back. He took that boat and went to another island called Lopez Island. From Lopez Island, Colton stole another boat and returned home to Camano Island. Due to the continuous thefts, the people of Camano Island started hating Colton. They even began holding meetings about how to get him caught by the police. Now the police were patrolling day and night with trained dogs. The private airplane owners were also spending their nights in those hangars where their airplanes were parked. On the other side, Colton had already realized that the entire island wanted him caught. That's why he reached Camano Island, stole a car from there, and left for another city. In the middle of these thefts, one good side of Colton was also seen. Once while driving, he passed by an animal shelter. Suddenly, he stopped his car, placed an envelope outside the shelter with $100 inside it, and also left a note. In the note he had written that he was passing by, had some extra money, and wanted the shelter to use it for the care of animals. On this note, Colton also signed his name and added his signature nickname Barefoot Bandit. This time, Colton decided that he would move out of Washington. So he started traveling from one state to another by stealing cars. Neither the police, nor the FBI, nor anyone in America had any idea where Colton really was. Finally, after stealing cars in 9 states, traveling 3,200 kilometers, and stealing 11 cars, he reached an airport in Bloomington City, Indiana. After reaching the airport, he hid behind the trees, kept an eye on the aircraft, and waited for the right chance. When he saw that a pilot had left the aircraft door open and gone away for some work, Colton immediately climbed into the aircraft and flew away with it. With this aircraft, Colton reached the Bahamas Island, and there, something happened which became his last flight. Colton's plane was flying in the skies of the Bahamas Island, when some people noticed that the plane was circling the same spot again and again. The reason behind this was that Colton couldn't find the right place to land. Soon, he spotted an empty piece of land some distance away. This land was completely flat, and because of that, Colton was able to land his plane very easily. Right after landing, he ran towards the fort. Within a short time, police arrived and began checking the aircraft. From their search, they realized it was an American plane. The police immediately informed the American authorities, who quickly suspected that this had to be Colton's work. They gave all information about Colton to the Bahamas police. The news spread like wildfire across the Bahamas, and every news channel began showing reports about Colton. Without wasting time, Colton also began his thefts here. His first targets were a restaurant and a departmental store, from where he stole cash, food, and other essential items. After these thefts, Colton once again set up a tent in the forest and started living there. Now, he began swimming at the beach and roaming around tourist spots as if he had come on a vacation. After a few days in the forest, Colton stole a car again and traveled from this island to a big city. After reaching that city, Colton started watching the boats parked at the harbor. One day, he saw that the owner of a boat had left the boat key in his car and gone inside a restaurant. Colton broke the car's window, took the boat key, immediately started the boat and escaped. He took that boat and sailed to another island in the Bahamas called Livin Island. On this island, Colton tried his best to stay out of sight, because by now people had begun recognizing him. His photos and name were being repeatedly shown on the news. Sometimes, when he passed by a restaurant, he saw his wanted posters displayed on the TV screen there. Because of this, he started going out in disguise. After spending a few days on this island, Colton again stole a boat, but this time, he made such a foolish mistake that he got caught by the police. After getting into the boat, Colton started moving it around in the water, when suddenly he noticed 2 boys standing on the shore. Seeing them, he began showing off stunts with the boat. The boys became confused, wondering why this guy was performing stunts in front of them. After some time, Colton drove his boat closer and told them, "You don't know me. My name is Colton, the Barefoot Bandit." Hearing this, one of the boys immediately recognized him. He also knew very well that there was a USD 100,000 bounty on Colton's head. The boy pretended not to recognize him and started talking to Colton to keep him close. Colton drove nearer but said, "I know you have recognized me. Tell the police to come and catch me, because I want to play with them." Hearing such words from Colton shocked both boys. Meanwhile, the second boy called a friend who had a boat and asked him to come with it, so they could catch Colton. Colton saw the boy talking on the phone, and quickly sped away with his boat. The boys watched him leaving, and soon their friend arrived with a speedboat carrying 4 more people. Now 6 people were chasing Colton together. Though Colton was far ahead, their speedboat quickly caught up. As they neared, one man aimed his gun at Colton, but Colton, being skilled at handling boats, slid his boat in such a way that seawater splashed all over them, even into the driver's eyes, blinding him for a moment. In that short moment, Colton managed to escape and reached a shore. Behind that shore was a mansion with a security guard. The guard had already been watching the 6 people chasing Colton with a gun, and just as he thought of calling the police, he saw Colton heading directly towards him. The guard signaled Colton to slow down, but Colton drove the boat into the shore, jumped out and ran into the bush. The guard chased after him, but Colton disappeared into the thick shrubs. The guard then called the local police commander and reported that he had seen the same boy shown on the news. The commander immediately alerted the harbor police and surrounded the area. Hiding in the bushes, Colton slowly made his way toward the harbor and quietly slipped into the water. He swam up to a boat and climbed aboard. People nearby noticed the boat moving slowly forward, with dim headlights, and wondered how it could be moving by itself. Suddenly,
Colton accelerated the boat and sped off. The police immediately realized it was him, but since they didn't have their own boats at the moment, locals offered theirs to help. Police began chasing him, but Colton was still ahead, constantly looking back to check their distance. Then, his boat suddenly struck the edge of a small island and got stuck in the sand. Despite several attempts, Colton couldn't free it. Meanwhile, the police surrounded him from all sides. What happened next shocked them all. Seeing himself trapped, Colton pulled out a gun and pointed it to his own head. The police panicked and shouted at him to put the gun down, but Colton was only trying to distract them. With one hand, he held the gun to his head, and with the other he steered the boat, trying to escape. Suddenly, he accelerated hard and freed the boat from the sand. The police opened fire, aiming to disable the engine. Just then Colton raised both his hands and said, "I want to surrender." Immediately the police arrested him. 2.5 years after escaping from the detention center, Colton was finally in police custody. When police brought him back to the harbor, a crowd had gathered, taking photos of him. The Bahamas police had succeeded in catching the thief, whom even American police and the FBI together could not capture. After arresting Colton, they transferred him to another island in the Bahamas for trial. The most surprising part was that even after all his thefts in the Bahamas were proven, the court fined him only USD 300. Now it was time to hand him over to the American police, where a long sentence was already waiting for him. Since Colton's trial began in America in 2010, by then he was 19 years old. In total, 67 cases were filed against him for the crimes he had committed in America, Canada, and the Bahamas. But Colton's luck was strong. His case was taken up by a very famous lawyer named John Henry Brown. This lawyer was known for winning even the toughest cases, and had once defended America's most infamous serial killer, Ted Bundy. The lawyer advised Colton to admit all his thefts, but also tried to draw the judge's attention to Colton's troubled childhood. He explained the hardships Colton had faced, without parents, and how those circumstances had pushed him into thefts. After hearing the lawyer's arguments, the judge felt sympathy for Colton. After consulting with the jury, the judge sentenced him to 7 years in prison. However, after spending 5 years in jail, Colton was released on parole. By then he was 24 years old. After release, he started working as an assistant in the office of the same lawyer who had defended his case. Later, Colton also gave many interviews, where he said he hated his past life, and was now very happy to live as a good person. He promised never to go back to that path again. This was the story of a boy who started his journey of theft at just 14 years old, stealing cars, boats, and even planes, and escaping from a detention center, but in the end, chose a better life.